Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the February installment of our Social Justice in College Athletics series. I'm NACDA CEO Bob Vecchione, and I hope you're continuing to stay safe as we all jump into what is arguably the busiest season this spring on record of the history of college athletics. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Katie Newman and Dana Leroy for the job they do behind the scenes in putting these together. NACDA's had close to 250 hours of virtual programming since about mid-May, and they have been instrumental behind the scenes in making this all become a reality. So thank you to Katie and Dana. Today, we're thrilled to have three impressive student athletes with us to discuss their experiences with racial and social inequities and how they are using their voices and platform to advocate for social justice in intercollegiate athletics in their respective communities. The session, titled My Story is Activism, will highlight the intersectional perspectives of student athletes as they discuss social justice, athletics, and identity. We're pleased to have Blair Hackworth, Director of Inclusion at the NCAA, with us today to moderate the session, along with student athletes Tyler Burns from Kansas State, Kenna Gilmour from Hamilton College, and Bianca Lockamy from Virginia Union to discuss their experiences and perspectives. Panelists, thank you for taking time to join us today. I know each of you will get into a little bit more of your background as we begin today's discussion. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that everyone's probably used Zoom in the past 9 to 10 months. So there's a Q&A portion, a Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. Please use that button to ask questions. We would like the last 15 or 20 minutes of this session to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to post your questions and we'll make sure that we'll get to as many as possible. So again, thank you for joining us today. And Naya, take it away.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you to you and NACDA for hosting, continuing to host such great conversations. Looking forward to hearing what our student athletes have to share today. So stated, my name is Blair Hackworth, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And we're gonna get ready to hear from our three amazing student athletes. So first question is, we know that each of you have been extremely active on your campuses. So if you could start out by telling us, one, when you were first interested in activism, and then tell us about some initiatives that you have started or been a part of on your campus. And Tyler, we'll start with you.
So I guess to answer when I was first interested in activism, I don't know if there's like one moment that I was like, oh, yeah, I need to be an activist. I think I view activism as, doing what I believe is right. And I feel like that's just kind of how I was raised. People that I like look up to, and I look at Martin Luther King or even I think of like Gandhi or my faith is important to me. So I look to like Jesus Christ, and like these people were just like standing up for doing what was right. And so I feel like that's like my introduction to activism is these people that are like, well, this is just what I believe is right, so I'm going to do that. I'm not trying to like do anything crazy. It's just saying what I believe. So I think that's kind of my introduction to activism and kind of what I've been part of on campus or just Manhattan, Kansas. Me and Julian Jones, he's like our assistant AD of student development and chief diversity officer. I kind of talked to him around the time when George Floyd was killed, and we started a social justice committee for our athletic program. And so I'm the chair of that social justice committee, which has been pretty difficult, especially due to COVID, just what activities we really can do, because you want to be in person for a lot of these things. So yeah, there's that, and then just trying to be involved in the community. I participated in community conversations of race and reconciliation, which is more of the city of Manhattan, Kansas. And along with that, yeah, we've done some protests and marches for Black Lives Matter that I've taken a part in, and that some other athletes have helped spearhead, such as like Chrissy Carr, who's a women's basketball player here at K-State. And yeah, we did a march and we spoke at Ahern Fieldhouse on our campus, which is where Martin Luther King Jr. spoke when he was here in Manhattan, Kansas. So yeah, those are just a handful of things that I've been a part of and helped try to lead. But yeah, a lot of time I'm just trying to play my part the best that I can.
Thanks. I wonder if that was a full circle moment for you. As you said, Dr. King was one of the people that you kind of looked to, and then to have an event where he spoke at on your campus. It's really neat in your community. Next, we'll hear from Kenna and then Bianca. If you could both tell us about your stories.
Absolutely. So for me personally, my activism, I think it kind of was solidified in high school, just when I began to learn more about our country's history, really in depth, and about the systems that continue to kind of threaten and plague marginalized groups in our society. And this only has developed as I've gotten older and been around, students in college that were passionate and professors. Some organizations or activities that I have been a part of that are in the social justice world include AC, which stands for Athletes of Color Initiative, that was started by me and a fellow teammate and a member of the women's basketball team, because we felt like it's a really unique experience to be a person of color and an athlete. Kind of merging those two identities creates some obstacles that not other students may not experience or be aware of. So once we created this, we really wanted a safe space for athletes to kind of open up about their experiences. And we had a lot of first-year students who were struggling with the time management skills that athletes need to have, especially if they went to schools previously that were not as rigorous or as demanding. We had some students who were really upset about teammates that may have committed microaggressions, or coaches that sometimes disqualified some of their statements about racism or gender or another form of discrimination. Another organization that I was really proud to be a part of in college was Brothers, which was an organization for all people, but specifically for Black men. And it really empowered being vulnerable and being open about your struggles. So we talk about sometimes, tests that were difficult, or sometimes experiences in the classroom that were difficult. But we also really empowered each other academically. So when I was in my first year of college, being around Black men that had gotten 4.0s, that were doing honors theses, really inspired me and motivated me and taught me that I could also be great academically, and that I was not going to be solely limited by my sport. And then thirdly, I also consider informal activism a really big and large part of social justice. So not just being in organizations, but being open in the dining hall, being open in the locker room, and really fighting for what's right in all aspects of my life, not just in the organizations.
Thank you, Bianca.
Yes. So I think I was my activism kind of first interested. It came along when I actually went to a PWI my freshman year before I transferred to Virginia Union. And the community in the area that I was at, it wasn't a lot of minorities in the community as well as the university. And there were people of color just like me who went through similar things, racism in the community when we went to the stores, anything like that. So at the institution, me and a group of my peers didn't feel like the institution was aware of how we were being treated, the different things that we had to go through while being there away from our home. And I actually helped bring awareness to the institution at the time. They now, I think after I transferred, they now have an organization there for minority students at the institution to kind of have somewhere and then like actually talk about the things that's going on and then bring awareness to the things that are happening around the community and the institution to the university. So I did help with that. Some things that I am into, I'm really big. I am the Student Athlete Advisory Committee president for my institution and for my conference. And I serve on the National Division II committee as well for SAC. And I feel like that's where my activism is really placed with the student athletes that are a part of SAC and just like other student athletes who I see on a daily basis. We participated in community of Richmond, Virginia, and other institutions that are around to get people to register to vote, make sure we all had, as many people as we could around the community to vote for this past election. I actually started a mentorship program within SAC and within the institution to, mentor younger students, middle schoolers to be exact. It was like 7th grade, 8th grade, to kind of talk to them and get their opinion on what's happening because, I mean, they're about to go to high school. So, they're about to grow up into stuff that they don't really see often. So a lot of us in the mentorship, we still talk to our mentees. And during the time where all the protests and stuff was going on, they were like, we want to go, but we're scared. And we're like, okay, well, we'll go with you. So a group of us got together, got our mentees, the students, and we went down there with them and we just continue to talk to them and stuff like that. And we plan to keep those initiatives going.
Thanks, Bianca. So you talk about your involvement in SAC, and in the fall of 2020, SAC, in partnership with NCAA Research and the NCAA Sports Science too, and not just Division II SAC, but Division I and Division III SAC, help administer the Student Athlete Wellbeing Survey. And there were survey questions that examined student athletes' perceptions and experiences in terms of civic engagement, athlete activism, and racial justice engagement. The survey reported that many student athletes participated in racial justice movements, such as the ones that all three of you mentioned today within the past 6 months. And 3/4 of the student athletes surveyed indicated that it's important for them to be an engaged citizen. So can you all share with us if your student athlete experience has changed, if any, over the last year, since there has been a renewed emphasis on student athlete activism? And Bianca, we'll start with you and then go to Kenna and then Tyler.
I would say the only change for my experience, and I think I can vouch for the other student athletes around me, is our involvement. I know as a student athlete, it's usually just school and our sport. And when we have that free time, we kind of just, have it to ourselves, most of us. But I feel like over the past year, the involvement has been the biggest thing for me. I'm a lot more involved in a lot more things, not only in my institution, but like within the community as well. So.
Yeah, to add to what Bianca said, I think that I felt a lot more validation and support from not only my peers, but from my administration as well. And there's a lot less apathy and a lot more intentionality about doing social justice work now. So people have been doing this work for years and years, but now there's been a lot more attention given. So there's also been a lot more opportunity with that attention. In terms of my team, my coach last spring during the peak of the George Floyd protests organized a lot of Zoom calls, and we had a lot of really challenging conversations that may have happened for 5 to 10 minutes previously, but now they were going for an hour. And a lot of people who were less comfortable had to really adjust and realize that a commitment to social justice is not going to be something that lasts for a month and is popular and then kind of fades away, but it's something that we hope lasts forever or until these problems can be solved.
I would say for my student athlete experience within the last year or so, I think to echo what everyone has said, I feel like a lot more validation and encouragement from the staff, like my coaches. I think they were emphasizing, how important our voices were, even if I honestly felt like maybe they didn't always probably agree with everything that every student athlete was saying, but that they were like, get your voice out there, like say what you believe. I feel like there was a lot more of that, which was really nice to hear, but it was also like, I think, once we were more encouraged to share our voices, then you start to hear all these people that disagree with you, which can be discouraging at times. When it's like, well, you have all these fans that were just saying, hateful things that were sick of, like, oh, just play sports, you're just here to play your sport. Like, why do you need to share what's on your mind, essentially? So I think that's a lot what comes to my mind when I think of kind of last year is, we had a lot more of a platform to share voices. And I think a lot of student athletes realized how strong their voices are, because you do a lot for your institution, for your university, that people have to kind of realize once you start sharing your opinion, sharing your beliefs. But just kind of the double-edged sword of that, of just a lot of pushback from people that were very stubborn, or just like, you're just here to play sports, like we don't need to hear what you think.
Thanks. Tyler, you mentioned about hearing discouraging and negative comments from others. So we know that while all of you talked about validation and support that you receive, you know that doing activism work, you can experience these challenges such as the ones that Tyler mentioned. So what challenges have you faced in your activism, and how did you overcome them? And what role, if any, did your athletic administrators and your coaches play in your journey? And so we'll start with you, Tyler.
So exactly what I was saying. We had all these like kind of initiatives that we were going to try to start making happen as a team. We had team meetings. Our coaches were on board that we would play a video at the beginning of our games, and we would share what Black Lives Matter means to us, and explaining that it doesn't mean any sort of Black supremacy, because I feel like a lot of people tend to like just go to that, or tend to think that we're saying that all people that are not people of color are bad. So we did that, and we put these BLM patches on our jerseys that we initially said we were going to wear for the whole season. And then after our first game, which we lost, we got upset, which I don't know if that had to do with it at all, but I believe like a lot of fans and donors were very, very upset that we were wearing these BLM patches, and we had kind of a moment of silence before the game, and we showed the video, and I feel like they were just upset that we're not just playing football, making it too political, and when we're just attempting to share our beliefs and share what Black Lives Matter means to us, and that we're more than just athletes. So we actually removed those patches. We had a meeting with me and some pretty much older guys on the team, trusted guys, with a couple of coaches, and just they were essentially explaining that they never said that donors like were upset, but like I heard and I know that donors were upset, and I believe that some even like pulled out from donating. But I think guys are just frustrated because it was like we're trying to support Black Lives Matter, and I think the coaches were trying to explain whether there's people that support Black Lives Matter that are violent and riot, and like yes, that's the case, but we also don't support the police officers because there's a few bad police officers, and it just seemed like a double standard in a way. So that was kind of just a pushback from the community, and like I couldn't imagine kind of the position the coaches were in, because probably had a lot of high important people like, hey, like you can't do this or we're gonna lose millions of dollars. So that was like really difficult time, and something I think about, because I think we were just really frustrated as some of the players to be like, well, why are we essentially just kind of being soft and giving up on this when we said we were going to stand up and say something about this? And it's just difficult because football for our university, like, it makes so much money. And so it's just like, well, you can't say whatever you want, compared to like, or just sports in general, like compared to just a normal student that could probably just do whatever they wanted and no one's going to care, or there's not going to be any pushback from the university or just random donors that don't even know us.
Thanks for sharing your experience, Tyler. Next, let's hear from Kenna and then Bianca.
Yes, so I had a lot of challenges that were similar to Tyler. One of the main ones was people not, understanding what we were fighting for, or thinking that our fight for equality was an attack on other people's agency. So obviously, as any activist knows, fighting for the rights of the Black community or the LGBTQ plus community, or really any marginalized community, is not attempting to extract any rights or any power from another group, but to essentially level the playing field and make sure that we have our voices brought to the table as well. As an athlete, a lot of people were surprised that me or other athletes that care about these things had such a commitment. And the popular phrase "shut up and dribble," that idea has been around for a long time, and that athletes are not supposed to be passionate about anything other than the basketball or the football or whatever sport they're a part of, and that they cannot be educated or care about anything else. So there was challenges that came with both of those, and some people also consider the Black community, or again other communities, fighting or advocating for justice, to be kind of victimizing themselves and feeling bad when they should just work hard. So I know that there are some sentiments that making a big deal about something like race kind of detracted from our ability to gain agency, but obviously I disagree with that. Another challenge would be losing momentum. Again, there has been a kind of a rekindled fight for social justice, and I don't want that to be a fad or a trend, but something that again changes structurally and is here to stay. Is not going to be around for a year, but hopefully, the rest of all of our lives. I was really lucky that the athletic administration and the administration as a whole was really supportive of those fighting and advocating for social justice. Luckily, the assistant athletic director at Hamilton until last year was a Black woman, Miriam, and she was really instrumental in empowering us. And just for us to know that we had someone on the inside or someone above that really cared about us and believed in us, and also experienced similar struggles was really inspirational. And the head athletic director was also behind us. So we really had support from all sides, which really kind of motivated us and empowered us as students.
I would definitely agree with what both of them said. So I'm not going to go back over it, but it was definitely similar things. But there was one challenge that I'm probably never going to forget. But again, when I first went into college, the institution that I was at, our coach at the time had talked to us about, when the kneeling of Colin Kaepernick first started. And she asked us how we felt about it, and things in that nature. And we all gave our opinion, and me and, one of my other teammates were the main two that was just saying like, we wanted to start something then, and I think being that it was really fresh and early than it is now, a lot of people weren't on board with it. And when I wanted to do something, my coach went back and she talked to administration, athletic directors, all that. And they didn't give us the support we thought they would give us. My coach was behind it, they were all with it 100%, but the administration, the university, the athletic department was not behind it. And the reason what they told me, the excuse that they gave me was it was because I was a freshman and they didn't want too much pressure on me with the media. And I was telling them, like, I was one of the top recruits here. The media doesn't bother me, stuff like that. So I think how I overcame it, I mean, I transferred, the HBCU that I'm at now, I mean, everybody, community, conference, everything, very supportive wherever I go. But during that time, I was very young. I don't think I didn't really handle it in a way where I kept going with my activism. I actually was quiet for a while and just didn't talk about it. But now, I have a platform. I tell people all the time, like, I've dealt with that. So now I know how to overcome it,
Yeah, thank you. In terms of, it's discouraging when you're experiencing challenges such as the ones that you all have mentioned, especially when it's challenges to something that you really care about and really believe in. And there's a quote that says, the moment that you stop accepting challenges is the moment that you stop moving forward. And so it's great to hear and to understand that despite the challenges that you all have experienced, that you continue to move forward. And for that, I know a lot of people are very grateful for that. Audre Lorde states that there is no such thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives. Therefore, how have other aspects of your identity influenced your activism and shaped your story? Ken, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. Yes. So I also, in addition to caring about the Black community, I also identify as gay. So being gay and being in the basketball world, in the hypermasculine world, has had a huge impact on my activism and my story. I always felt like, even while at predominantly white institutions, basketball created a safe haven for me in terms of my race. In high school, at some days, the only times I was around other Black men were during basketball practice. So I felt very comfortable in that space in terms of my race. But basketball was not always the most, or it's still not always the most inclusive place for men who are not straight. So being able to, bring my entire identity to my team in college was huge for me. And for a lot of them, I was the first gay person that they were really friends with or close with. And I think for a lot of them, there was a lot of stereotypes or stigmas that they initially misunderstood. But once they got to know me and they realized that I was no different than them, a lot of their kind of perspectives were changed. And, they really opened up to the idea of kind of questioning a lot of the stereotypes that we've been kind of conditioned to believe throughout our lives. So, and in addition to that, I also think the identities that I don't occupy also really influence my activism. I am not a woman. I am able-bodied. I am cisgender. And I understand that, no matter how much work I do to understand these identities, I'm not going to understand them as much as someone who's really experiencing those obstacles, day in and day out. So for me, not having an ego in certain situations and listening and uplifting the voices of women and other people that, have experiences different than mine is another part of my activism, because I don't want, just the identities that I occupy to gain kind of more equality and more equity, but I want, all marginalized groups to have an opportunity to continue fighting for whatever they believe in.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Tyler and then Bianca.
For me, I grew up in a Christian household. I went to like a lot of private Christian schools, predominantly white, and dealing with that, my dad's white, my mom's Black, and so kind of like with this almost like identity crisis at times of like, well, I'm a Black person, but at least the world views me as Black, but I'm also half white, and how I act wasn't, I guess, never Black enough or white enough, whatever the case is, or I was called like a white Black person because I guess I was educated or spoke more properly than I was supposed to. And I think a lot of that was just like a pet peeve. And as I've grown in like understanding and like, well, at first, they're calling me a white Black person. Then I'm like, well, why? It's like, because how am I supposed to act as a Black person? I'm just Black. Like, that's just what I am. Like, I cannot change that at all. I think a lot of that influenced me wanting to speak up and be like, hey, there's no certain way that a Black person is supposed to act, or a white person. Like, yeah, I can speak however I want. Yeah, I don't have to cuss all the time or whatever the case is. I don't know how a Black person is supposed to act, but I feel like that's the things that come to my mind when they're saying that, oh, I'm a white Black person. And yeah, I just kind of that struggle of like not feeling like I kind of belonged at times. Yeah, and I didn't essentially feel lonely, but yeah, I just didn't feel like, it's like I had to prove that I was Black enough at times, and maybe, yeah, I didn't feel like I could always be myself. Then yeah, growing up in the Christian home, yeah, just like from my faith, I just believe in fully trying to understand people, that you can love them the best that you can. And yeah, I feel like if I'm not attempting to listen, then I'm going to completely miss the point. And I think a lot of times we hear people that disagree with us, and if they disagree with us in a harsh way, then we're just going to completely disengage or practice avoidance, which sometimes, yeah, we feel like that's healthier for our relationships and friendships and mental health. But sometimes we maybe need to engage in that more and find some type of understanding, so I can find the best way that I can, love someone else. Because yeah, a lot of times me and my father, we butt heads a lot when it comes to social justice and activism. And yeah, sometimes we just want to completely disengage and practice avoidance. But yeah, I need to do my best to understand where he is coming from. And that goes across all people and not just my dad, because I want to love everyone the best that I absolutely can, no matter if they live a completely different life than me or not. So yeah, I think, yeah, a lot of my faith goes into that when I want to be an activist. Like, yeah, I want to speak up, but I also want to be the first one to be listening, because yeah, I just don't always want to be taking action without understanding, or I'm probably going to hurt people emotionally, mentally, whatever the case is.
I am very similar to Tyler on a lot of things he just talked about. I think my race, I am biracial as well. My father is white and my mother is Black. And I think that identity that I've had kind of gives me a strong motivation inside to keep going. Similar to Tyler, when I was younger, I had Black and white friends, every race. My Black peers would be like, you're just not Black enough. Or my white peers would be like, you're just not white enough, So I did feel like I had trouble fitting in or feeling like I belonged when I was growing up. And, that influences a lot now, because I know who I am, and I didn't feel like I had to fit in anymore at a certain time when it came. And I could be whoever I wanted to be, act however I wanted to act around whoever it was, And when I figured out that about myself, I saw a lot of my friends unite and like be one and not look at each other different ways, and I would also say my faith and plays a big role. As a Christian, I try to see the good in everybody, even though I know that may not be the case, but regardless, I'm like, my friends be like, well, why didn't you just say something? Or like, I would have said something if somebody said something crazy. Why didn't you say anything? I'm like, because I have to understand that they're totally different than me. They might be going through something, they probably grew up a little different. And I know there's good in people. Just because we don't have the same, opinions and belief doesn't mean I have to look at them differently.
Thank you. Great lessons for us all to remember. So as you all, talk about, different aspects of who you are and understanding, your identity, your story, but also understanding others' story, how have you gained buy-in when it comes to your activism efforts from your teammates, your coaches and administrators? And we'll start back with you, Bianca, and then go Kenna and Tyler.
Well, with anything I do, the people around me who have molded me into the leader I am, I kind of take from them and, keep going. And I gain buy-in. I always give a vision whatever it is, I give the vision, I state exactly what is changing and why it's changing, and we use each other's strengths rather than using the weaknesses of people to get things done. And we stay connected. We always have conversations, and we just try to keep an open mind, whatever we do.
Yeah. To add to that, in my case, it did take a little bit of time. It wasn't like I walked into my first year in college and that everyone looked at me as a leader or valued everything I said. But once people kind of develop a trust and a respect for you as an individual, then they're really more likely to kind of listen to you about issues like this that can sometimes be kind of contentious or a hot debated topic. I'm trying to think of what other points. I found that some people who were kind of more inactive in this work and they didn't seem to care as much as others. Once you have that an individual conversation with them, and once you have a connection with them as a human being, they realize, okay, I may not care about this as much as Kenna does, but my actions are going to have a direct impact on his life or people that look like him or Tyler or Bianca. And I think once people realize that this is not some abstract, faraway issue, but this can, social justice can really change the lives of the people in their own communities, of their own friends, that a lot of people have a different perspective, and that even if they personally won't be impacted by something, they're still going to care about it when they realize the people that they care about, that it matters to them.
When I think of how my teammates and coaches, administrators had kind of reacted, and just to my response and just other teammates' response, because probably other guys on my team were probably more vocal at times, because I'm not really a social media person. I'm really only on like Facebook, and that makes me an old person. But yeah, a lot of guys would tweet all the time about it. And yeah, it was encouraging to see, yeah, no matter if they were black or white, but I think it would be probably wrong of me to assume that everybody on our team agreed with how, I guess, progressive we were being as a team with supporting social justice. Because the coaches were just kind of like, this is what the team's doing, which I loved, but also, probably wasn't accurately representing the whole team. But I love that the coaches were like on board and like, hey, we're doing this, and this is what we're going to do as a team. There maybe could have been more times where we could have, tried to talk as a team more to see where everybody was coming from. But also, I think a lot of the buy-in just came from, the past summer and just George Floyd, and just that there had to be pretty much a huge event for people to be like, hey, oh, this is still happening. This is still a bad thing. And I feel like that's where a lot of the buy-in came from. It wasn't from like, oh, well, we understand this is happening. It was like, well, there needs to be a huge event, so there's a huge response. Not necessarily that this was always happening for, the whole time I was at K-State.
Thank you. So we know, there are a lot of big events, tragedies that happen over the summer. So do you all believe that online activism or the virtual space has galvanized social justice efforts? So what role do you think that, again, online activism or the virtual space has played, if any, in social justice efforts? We'll start with Kenna, then Tyler, and close with Bianca.
I think that especially, or maybe possibly exacerbated by COVID, online activism is, for some of us, the only form of activism we've been able to do in the past few months. And even if COVID did not exist, it's a way to bring more visibility and more education, about social rights and social justice to the forefront of a lot of people's lives. Like Tyler, I'm not too much of a social media fan, so I'm also an old man. But I think it does provide, an incredible utility for some people to see communities that they may not, be a part of. For certain people who are in, very white spaces, they may not see too many people of color in their day-to-day life. but they can still have an impact. They can still bring visibility to the struggles of others. So social media is a great place not only to learn, but also to use your platform as a way to connect with others. So as athletes, a lot of athletes are the more kind of popular, more prominent figures on these apps and on social media. And I really commend athletes like LeBron who use their platform, to fight for the rights of others, even if it could possibly impact, the amount of shoes they sell, their marketability, and really sacrificing at times their economic profits for the betterment of their people.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, trying to think. Yeah, I think social media, yeah, it can be a great place for people to bring about community. And I think a lot of times it can be, yeah, people's like first couple steps, like their stepping stone. Like, well, maybe they don't really understand what's happening, but I see this out there. I see this march happening, this protest. I see, yeah, LeBron James or people, people high up saying, oh, there's issues and these are the facts. This is what happened. And they're like, okay, well, maybe I need to start thinking about this more. Because, yeah, I'm probably not as active on social media because a lot of times I'm like, no one is ever going to completely, change their mind on social media. Like, I don't think that's the place where it's going to happen, in my opinion. I think probably more arguments tend to happen. But, yeah, I do think it can be, yeah, those first stepping stones for someone that just maybe is, yeah, really, really lost. So, yeah, like small town people in Kansas, yeah, they're never probably going to experience a lot of things when it comes to social justice because 99% of their community is probably white. And so, yeah, for them to see those things and be like, oh, this is actually happening in my world, and maybe I need to expand my horizons and my vision a little bit more and not just see things through one lens, I think is vastly important. But yeah, so I think it's a good kind of stepping stone, but yeah, I don't think it's, I guess, the best when it comes to like, well, we really need to kind of change our hearts and our minds. I think a lot of that is probably going to happen face to face at the end of the day.
I definitely agree with both what Tyler and Kenna said. I feel like because of COVID, a lot of people had to take a seat back and stay at home and, do things online and virtual and stuff like that. And I feel like it's made people take initiative or even just be aware of what's going on. Rather than usually when we're out, doing stuff, nobody's really paying attention to anything other than what they're doing. So I think being virtual and online activism has been a really good thing right now.
So I have one more question for y'all before we start taking the audience questions. We know that there are many administrators on this call today. So what is something that you would like for them to know or a way in which they can support their student athletes? And we'll start with you, Tyler, and then go Kenna, and then Bianca.
That's difficult. I would say first of all, just listen. I think, which I know administrators are so busy. Like I can't imagine the positions that they're in and trying to please everyone. But I think probably some acceptance of like you're not going to please everyone and kind of just stick to who you're trying to be. I think is important because at the end of the day, like I think of what happened at K-State with like donors not being happy. I guess are you going to be caring more about money, or I guess your morals and your beliefs and the well-being of your student athletes, which I know is difficult when it's probably like millions of dollars at times. But yeah, I think just listening a lot and building that empathy through understanding is just vital to being a great administrator, director, staff member, whatever the case is. Not trying to, I guess, change who you are from any outside pressures, I think is vital. I think that goes in just all aspects of life, not just administrating. But I think they probably have a lot more pressure than most people do because just so much money is involved in college athletics.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Tyler just said, and to echo on the point of listening it's really important to build these connections with these, marginalized groups, with students, from the jump. And even when, everything is going well, you don't want to, just kind of become closer with a group, once there is a story on the news or a protest, that comes out, but you want to have that connection with people, at all times. And another thing is, all administrators are also just, human beings. So having that personal connection with students, it is likely larger at like a huge institution like Kansas State. It's probably a lot easier at a school like Hamilton with, only a few thousand students. But you know, connecting with students, on an individual level can really be impactful. And, just know that students are always watching. For me personally, there was an administrator that, once they had figured out or found out that I was gay, they started using the word partner instead of, girlfriend when they were speaking, to the men's team or to my team. And that was just, a one word switch, but that was really impactful, to me, and made me feel a lot more included and seen and validated. And they may not have, ever known that, that one word, had an impact on me, but that just kind of goes to show that, a lot of the efforts that you're doing, may not always be acknowledged or, really applauded up front, but just know that, you all have, the capacity to be really impactful and help change people's lives, not only on the administrative level, but also on the interpersonal level.
I definitely agree with both. I say support is a big thing. I feel like, I know I've talked to plenty of my friends who attend other schools, and they feel like they don't have the support when they believe in something from their coaches or administration. And also, just like Kenneth said, getting to know your student athletes on a personal level. Before I went to Virginia Union, I mean, I didn't think too much into that. I was just like, I'm here to play, go to school and get my degree, keep going. But when I got to Virginia Union and I grew these personal connections and, relationships with my administration and coaches and others like around, I feel like it's been very impactful for me to be able to share my thoughts and opinions with them. And I also think that believing in your student athletes, if it's something that, they really have a strong hold about, then just believing in what they're doing. And I mean, I feel like that's going to be the most impactful thing.
All right. Thank you all. So we're having some questions that come in from the audience, and audience members, we want to encourage you to submit questions that you have, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. But this first question is going back to a message to our administrators, but more specifically to our white administrators. So what would you as a student athlete say are some effective ways for a white administrator to help create a more comfortable and inclusive environment for student athletes of color without perpetuating a white savior kind of complex and end up making things more uncomfortable? So we'll start with you, Bianca.
So I would say I guess the main thing with me was at Wise, if I had that support and knowing that it came from them, and I didn't feel like I was looked at differently because, I was a different race, I feel like things would have been a lot better. So that is one of the main things, I think, just making your student athletes understand that it's not about race with them, because most student athletes, I mean, they come in thinking like they're going to be looked at differently because of their race, so I think that's a big thing to make them feel comfortable.
Next, Kenna, and then Tyler.
Yeah, to add on to what Bianca said, another really important thing is just for administrators to know that they don't know everything, that, a lot of this work is kind of continuing, and that they, again, are not going to be able to understand the kind of totality of the Black experience as a student athlete. So being open to not necessarily, criticism, but to, positive construction, being open to having, meetings with Black athletes and really trying to get to know their experience, because not everything that you see on the outside is what's really going on internally. During my first year in college, there was an assistant coach that said a lot of pretty, racially ignorant things. And I did not, make the biggest fuss about it. I was really focused on, trying to do well and to fit in to an extent. But it obviously had upset me, and it upset some of my teammates. So just developing those connections with student athletes, so that if there is something going on that's not obvious, that they feel comfortable and safe and trusting to come to you, and that they won't, keep it bottled up inside, or try to release that anger in another manner.
I think most importantly, just ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions. I feel like everyone wants to have everything figured out, but like ask your student athletes questions. Like, like Kenna said, y'all don't know everything. No one knows everything, or how to respond, how to act all the time. So asking questions is just, I think, can be important. And it shows that you are trying, you care. And I think how Bianca's harped on, just being supportive, and when there are any social justice sort of events, or just any events, it doesn't have to be social justice, just that that you are showing up, that you are present, I think means a lot. I think it has meant a lot to me when I see an administrator, or when I saw administrators or staff members at a protest, and even if we didn't talk, but I just see that they're there. That just means a lot to me, because it shows me that even if they probably don't agree with everything that I think, it shows me that they're trying, and it shows me that I can go and have a conversation with them about things that truly matter to me.
So our next question, we know that you all have done some phenomenal work on your campuses and your communities and your conference. So how are you working to ensure that it continues, that this is not just a moment, but as many people have said, a movement? So let's first hear from Kenna, then Bianca, and followed by Tyler.
One way to really ensure that this is, like you said, a movement and not just a moment, is to fight for structural change, not just for the optics, not just so that the institution posts something commemorating Martin Luther King, or post something against racial violence, but that there's actually systems that are being challenged and changed, so that when we all are far removed from college, that those changes can still stay in place. So for me, that is kind of challenging the institution. I actually graduated last spring, but staying in contact with administrators, with my coaches, when there is discussions about social justice, I still try to stay involved and be there whenever I can, and make sure that, again, that it's beyond just words, but there's really some actions that kind of go behind this movement.
I definitely will agree. I know with my SAC platform, I usually try to go to the student athletes within SAC and then their teammates to kind of get an idea of what everyone wants to do. And then I bring that back to, the athletic department, and hope that maybe they will be able to put things aside to really get stuff done for us to really show that this is something that we truly believe in and we want to do and continue to do, even when I graduate next year. So I think that's one big thing.
For me, it's just kind of the relationships that I've built, and kind of ensuring my thoughts and beliefs, and knowing that others have those same thoughts and beliefs, and just faithful people that I know will carry on the work. And also with the social justice committee, that there are people on the committee, and I know Julian, who is helping run the committee, that's our chief head officer of diversity, is overseeing that. So just knowing that that committee is hopefully going to continue, and more people will cycle through there with probably better ideas than me, and just knowing that there are things in process that are going to continue on after I'm gone. But a lot of that is just hopefully the relationships I've built that will continue. The beliefs that I've had. After I'm done with K-State.
Thanks. So we're coming toward the end of our time together, and we want to ask you all, what has activism, your activism, taught you, right? And so we'll go with Bianca, Tyler, and then Kenna.
So I feel like my activism has taught me to be specific with what it is that I want to do, and don't let other issues kind of water those goals that I'm being specific about. I think having to be educated, we can always be educated, but having to be educated and then share those things that we are educated on with others, because others might not be that involved in what's going on, and engaging in the community to not only do it within my institution, but really get the community around involved.
I think for me, it's a lot of things I've probably said already. A lot of it's listening and understanding just even more. And yeah, what Bianca said, just being educated. And yeah, if I'm going to make a stand on something, then I need to know what happened. I need to know the facts. Yeah, because yeah, the world wants to point out every misstep that you have whenever you're speaking on something. And so yeah, just knowing what you are talking about before you're going to go and share it with the world. I think that's important, and just that words matter. How I say something, the tone of it, like I communications, I'm working my master's in that, and just that, yeah, words matter, how you say it, what you're saying, and they can have lasting impacts on people, positive or negative. Yeah, because I know I've heard people speak, and the words they've said have made me not want to listen to anything else that they say after that. Or yeah, someone could give me a great speech and yeah, say really meaningful things and loving words, and I'm like, okay, I will listen to them after this. So yeah, just being careful with the words that you choose, and I know that words hurt, no matter if it's on social media or if it's just in person and face to face.
To add to what both Bianca and Tyler said, activism has given me a confidence to go against the grain and to really, fight for what I believe in, even if it's not always what's popular or what's easy or what's convenient. Um, it's also given me the understanding or ability that to understand that we are all coming to this work from different places. We're not all going to be specialists our first day or our first year or even ever. But if people are kind of trending in the right direction, working for a more equitable society and doing whatever that they believe is right to, kind of change the world for the better, that we have something to kind of applaud about. So it's kind of given me both the ability to believe not only in myself but also understand that we're not all the same, and we're not always going to be able to agree on things, but if we all are working for the same goal, that we have something to celebrate.
Thank you. Thanks to all three of you. Amanda Gorman says, "For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." And thanks to you, Bianca, Kenna, and Tyler, for being the light and for sharing your story. Now I'll turn it back over to Bob.
Well, thank you, everyone. Another great session. One thing that I think all of us have learned, at least I have learned since we've been doing these social justice virtual programs, is the communication is really getting great and getting greater and greater each month, if you will. It's building up that people feel much more comfortable having those difficult conversations. It's not where it needs to be yet, but it's getting there. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, so we're getting there, slow but sure. And the other testimony that I heard today was that as student athletes, you see the change. You're starting to see the change within your respective athletics departments, and that's the great litmus test. When all this work that's being done, all this communication is being done, if it's getting to the core audience, which is our student athletes, that means we're doing something right. So, we're not there yet. We're heading in the right direction. Thank you so much for your input. Kenna, Bianca, Tyler, Naya, thank you so much for your leadership on this issue. And for those members who are out there, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to hosting future social justice seminars in the future. Be safe and thank you. Goodbye.